Dubai. January 19, 2010. Evening. Into the elite Al-Bustan Rotana Hotel walks a man feared by many, Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, one of the founders of Hamas's military wing, the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigades. For Israel, he was enemy number one, a killer of soldiers, a broker of arms, deals with Iran for Gaza. For Mossad, the ultimate target. At 2024, he opened the door to room 230. His security detail had been left behind. He was unprotected. He did not know that in the corridor, some men were already waiting, armed with fake passports, false names, and a very real order to kill. Within hours, al-Mabhouh would be dead. Everything unfolded quietly and was staged to look like a natural death in his sleep. It was an operation that entered history as one of Mossad's boldest assassinations. But the question remains, how did Israeli agents manage to pull this off in Dubai, one of the most heavily guarded cities in the world? Now the truth is revealed. We finally know exactly how Mossad carried out this daring operation, because surveillance footage from Dubai was released to the public. Every step, every move of the agents was captured. Stay with us. The full story is about to unfold before your eyes. For more than 20 years, Mossad hunted one man. Agents followed him in Syria, Iran, Sudan, and Egypt. His name appeared in dozens of secret intelligence reports. Nearly 30 operatives took part in the mission to eliminate him. Fake passports, different nationalities, carefully assigned roles. Israel deployed such numbers only against its most dangerous enemies, and that enemy was Mahmoud al-Mabhouh. The question is simple: why him? What had this man done that made Israel willing to risk an international scandal just to erase his name from the map? The answer lies in his biography. He was not a prime minister, not a general, not a high-ranking official, but he was the one who connected Hamas's political will with Iran's military support. In 1989, al-Mabhouh kidnapped and killed 2 Israeli soldiers. For Israel, that was the point of no return. His name would forever remain on Mossad's list of targets. In Tel Aviv, they understood he was not just another militant, he was a man ready to spill blood and inspire others to do the same. But there was something even more dangerous. Al-Mabhouh built the channels that brought weapons from Iran. Rockets, rifles, ammunition, all of it flowed into Gaza through routes where he was the key middleman. Every shipment strengthened Hamas. Every deal made the next war more real. That is why Israel saw him not just as an enemy, but as a mortal threat. And now we return to the past. Who was he before he became a symbol of war? Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was born in a refugee camp in Gaza. His childhood was marked by concrete walls, poverty, and a constant sense of loss. From an early age, he saw only ruin and hatred. In such an atmosphere, pacifists did not grow up. Future fighters did. Out of this environment, he emerged, and together with other radicals, founded Hamas's military wing, the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigades. These were no longer street gangs. This was a structure capable of waging war. For Palestinians, he became a hero. For Israel, the enemy number one. And so his death in a Dubai hotel room was only a matter of time. Although Mahmoud al-Mabhouh had been hunted for many years, he was only eliminated in 2010. At a closed meeting in Jerusalem, Mossad chief Meir Dagan presented a report to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The target was moving too freely, continuing arms deals with Iran and planning new shipments to Gaza. Dagan insisted they could wait no longer. Netanyahu approved. The order was given. From that moment, preparations began. The operation could not be carried out in Gaza or in Syria, where al-Mabhouh felt at home and was under Hamas protection. It had to be in a place where he would be without bodyguards, in transit, caught between meetings. That place was Dubai. The city seemed calm, businesslike, far from open war. But it was precisely for this reason that al-Mabhouh felt safe there. And precisely for this reason, Mossad chose it. Preparation began with passports. Across different countries in Europe, agents obtained documents under false names. Britain, Ireland, France, Germany, Australia. More than 20 passports. All carried the photographs of operatives. All were in the names of real people who lived in Israel or held dual citizenship. To official databases, these passports looked genuine. Then came the transfer to Dubai. Not on a single flight, not as one group. Each agent flew from a different country, at a different time, so that no one overlapped. At the airport, they passed through as ordinary tourists or businessmen. No one lingered, no one raised suspicion. They did not stay in the same place either. Different hotels, different neighborhoods. Outwardly, they had nothing in common, but in reality, every role was assigned. Who would watch, who would rent cars, who would arrange hotel rooms, who would handle the final act. At the same time, a coordination center operated in Europe. French intelligence later claimed that in Paris, in the Bercy district, Mossad rented an ordinary hotel room and turned it into a command post. Computers, secure phones, and contact with agents on the ground. From there, every detail of the operation was controlled. And when al-Mabhouh booked his ticket to Dubai in mid-January, his name immediately landed on the desks of Israeli intelligence officers. They knew he was traveling alone. His bodyguards would not be on the same flight. It was the perfect moment. And so, the city that seemed to him just a brief stopover on the way to China became a deadly trap. Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was used to thinking of himself as cautious, but in Dubai, his habits turned into fatal mistakes. The first mistake, he arrived without bodyguards. Normally, he was never without protection, but on that January day, his guards could not get seats on the same flight. There were simply no tickets left. Al-Mabhouh chose not to wait and flew alone. He expected his security detail to join him the following day. But that meant for many hours he was completely unprotected. The second mistake, trust. He gave his family in Gaza the phone number of the hotel where he would be staying. He did it over the phone, not realizing his conversations could be intercepted. For professionals, that was enough to confirm his route and exact location. The third mistake, registering under his real name. Despite his experience, despite the danger, he checked into the hotel openly as Mahmoud al-Mabhouh. No disguise, no cover story. For Mossad operatives who were already inside the building, this was a gift. Now they knew the exact room number. And finally, the fourth mistake, predictability. His movements were far too easy to track. Departure from Damascus, arrival on an Emirates flight, and a taxi to the hotel. Everything went according to schedule, without any surprises. He lived as though he had no enemies watching. These seemingly small steps formed a chain that led straight to the end. On that night in Dubai, Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was no longer the cautious Hamas commander. He was a man who made mistakes, and because of them, he became easy prey. The operation, which had begun thousands of kilometers away from Dubai, entered its decisive phase on the evening of January 19th. By that time, all agents had taken their positions. Every step of Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was being tracked, from the airport to the taxi, from the hotel reception desk to the corridor on the second floor. It all happened at the Al-Bustan Rotana Hotel, a five-star property with easy access to downtown Dubai, located less than 1 kilometer from Dubai International Airport, a place always filled with people, where cameras recorded every move. And yet, it was here that Mossad dared to strike, in plain sight, in the heart of a city crowded with tourists and businessmen. When al-Mabhouh returned to his room at about 8:24 p.m., the agents already knew he would be alone. The room had been carefully prepared. The electronic lock had been broken into and reprogrammed in advance, allowing access at any time. To an outsider, everything appeared normal. The door opened with a key card as usual. According to the investigation, it all began with a drug. Just a few seconds, and a person loses control over their movements. The substance did not take away consciousness, but it paralyzed the muscles. It left the victim defenseless, unable to resist. Next came electricity. Dubai police reports mention a stun device applied to the head and limbs. It was meant to disorient, weaken, and drain his strength. The final stage was suffocation. A pillow was used, an old and silent method. No blood, no signs of struggle, no cries that could alert the neighbors. Within minutes, it was over. The body was carefully laid on the bed. On the nightstand, a medicine bottle was placed. Everything had to look as if the man had died a natural death in his sleep, from illness or a sudden attack. This staging almost worked. In the first hours after the discovery, the police believed it was a quiet death in a hotel room. Only a meticulous investigation, blood analysis, and repeated forensic tests proved that it had been a carefully planned assassination. It seemed everything had gone perfectly. But the very thoroughness of the operation betrayed the perpetrators. Surveillance footage captured suspicious movements. The hotel's electronic locks revealed that outsiders had entered the room. Later, forensic analysis detected traces of drugs and electric shock. That night in Dubai appeared calm and peaceful. But in reality, it was the conclusion of one of the most audacious operations ever carried out by Israeli intelligence. The morning of January 20th in the Dubai hotel began as usual. The corridors were filled with the sound of maids' carts, muffled conversations, and the soft hum of vacuum cleaners. One by one, the rooms were being put in order. But when one of the maids approached the door of the guest who had spent the night there, a man named Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, she noticed something strange. Since the evening, the key card had not been used again, and the door remained locked from the inside. At first, this caused no real concern. Guests sometimes sleep longer than usual or ask not to be disturbed. But by noon, it became clear. Behind the door, it was too quiet. Phone calls went unanswered, and there was no "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging on the handle. The maid turned to security. The guards on duty, together with the administrator, came to the room. They knocked several times. Silence. Then security decided to open the door with a master key. The electronic lock gave way, and the door slowly swung open. At first glance, the scene inside looked ordinary. The room was in order. A suitcase stood against the wall, belongings neatly arranged. On the bed lay a man, as if immersed in a deep sleep. His head rested on the pillow. His arms lay relaxed across the blanket. But something was wrong. The maid was the first to notice the absence of breathing. A guard stepped closer, called the guest by name. No response. Then they saw, beside the bed, a small vial of medicine. Everything appeared as though the man had died quietly in his sleep from illness or a sudden attack. The hotel management followed protocol. They called an ambulance and the police. The doctors who arrived on the scene only confirmed the obvious. The man was dead. In those first minutes, no one could imagine that this case would go far beyond standard hotel procedure. To the staff, it looked like a sad but ordinary story. A guest who simply did not wake up. But in reality, behind the door of that room lay a secret that would soon shake not only Dubai, but the entire world. At first, everything seemed simple. A man had died in his sleep. That was the initial version announced by the Dubai police. No blood, no signs of struggle, no noise that might have disturbed the neighbors. On the nightstand lay a small vial of medicine. The scene suggested the familiar scenario of sudden cardiac arrest or a medical attack. But the calm did not last long. Within just a few days, investigators began to have doubts. Too many details looked suspiciously neat, as if arranged. It was decided to conduct further examinations. 10 days later, the original version collapsed. Dubai authorities officially admitted this was not a natural death, but a carefully planned assassination. Debates followed. Some claimed an electric shock had been used. Others spoke of poison administered shortly before death. Still others pointed to signs of suffocation. The theories multiplied, but none explained all the details at once. Only later did the investigation reach a single conclusion. First, a drug was administered that paralyzed the muscles but left the victim conscious. Then came suffocation with a pillow. Quick, silent, without blood or screams. What had begun as an ordinary incident in a hotel room turned into an international sensation. Dubai police now understood this was no accident, but an operation carried out by a highly trained team of professionals. When Dubai police finally acknowledged that this was a case of murder, a real storm of investigations began. Hundreds of hours of surveillance footage were reviewed repeatedly. In the hotel lobby, in the elevators, in the corridors, people in suits, in sportswear, with suitcases, and without. At first, they seemed like ordinary tourists, but little by little, the puzzle came together into a shocking picture. The videos revealed an entire network of 29 people, men and women moving in perfect coordination, as if following a rehearsed script. They checked into different hotels, met in parking lots, switched cars and clothes. It all looked like a well-staged theater production where every actor knew their part. The biggest surprise came with the passports. Investigators had 26 documents from the United Kingdom, Ireland, France, Germany, and Australia. but all of them were fake. Real people with those names existed, yet they had never set foot in Dubai. Their identities had simply been stolen and used as cover. An international scandal was inevitable. Soon, Interpol published the photographs of the suspects. In the images, smiling men and women captured by the hotel's hidden cameras. For many countries, this was a personal insult. Their passports had been turned into tools of a secret operation. Dubai police made a bold statement. At a press conference, the head of security declared, 99% certain this operation was the work of Israel's Mossad. Those words echoed across the world. Newspapers ran with screaming headlines, and politicians demanded answers. But in Israel, there was silence. No confirmation, no denial. Only the familiar formula. We do not comment on such matters. Thus, from the shadows emerged the alleged executors of one of the most daring operations of the decade. And the deeper investigators dug into the details, the clearer it became. Behind the death of one man stood an entire army of professionals. When the story of al-Mabhouh's assassination had already spread across the world, new revelations added even more intrigue. In Jordan, 2 Palestinians were arrested. Their detention was immediately shrouded in secrecy. Investigators claimed the detainees were not the direct executors of the killing, but it was through them, according to police, that the operatives of the mission obtained crucial information about al-Mabhouh's movements. Flight numbers, hotel bookings, travel details. Everything needed to plan each step. The men's connections drew particular attention. Investigators hinted at possible cooperation with members of the Fatah movement, as well as ties to Mohammed Dalan, a powerful Palestinian politician and rival of Hamas. It looked like betrayal from within, as if someone from the victim's own circle had deliberately exposed him to danger. For Hamas, this became the reason for loud accusations. Its representatives issued sharp statements. The Palestinian Authority is complicit in this crime. It collaborated with Israeli intelligence and bears responsibility for the death of our leader. The accusations sounded like a verdict. Intra-Palestinian tensions flared up with renewed force. Some believed it was mere gossip and political games, while others were convinced, in an operation of such scale, there could not have been success without betrayal at the very highest level. When the investigation released the names and photographs of the alleged participants in the operation, the consequences were inevitable. The scandal that began in Dubai instantly escalated into an international crisis. The United Kingdom, Australia, and Ireland took the very steps Israel feared most. They declared Israeli diplomats persona non grata and expelled them from their territories. For London, the forgery of British passports was especially painful, a violation of a symbol of trust and national security. In Parliament, voices spoke of a breach of sovereignty and a gross violation of international law. Australia and Ireland joined the condemnation, calling the actions of Israeli intelligence a direct threat to their citizens, whose names and documents had been cynically used in someone else's game. Each government declared this was not just an attack on one man in Dubai, it was a blow to the security of all our citizens. The European Union issued a joint statement. Brussels strongly condemned the use of forged passports as a method of covert operations. For European leaders, this was a red line. For the first time in history, such a vast network of counterfeit documents affected several countries at once, turning peaceful visas and travel into tools of espionage. Israel, however, maintained its silence. No confirmation, no denial. But that silence was no longer enough. Across the world, the same question echoed: where is the line between defending national interests and disregarding international law? The secrecy of the Dubai operation seemed polished to perfection. Fake passports, cover stories, the synchronized movements of dozens of agents. But in the 21st century, even the most seasoned intelligence operatives face an enemy that cannot be deceived: digital traces. The first thing investigators uncovered was the bank cards used to pay in hotels and shops by the suspected members of the hit team. To the police's surprise, all of them had been issued through the Israeli fintech startup Payoneer. At the time, the company was known only in a narrow circle of businessmen, yet its footprint suddenly surfaced at the heart of an international scandal. It looked like carelessness, almost mockery, as if behind the flawless facade of the operation lay a direct bridge to Tel Aviv. Then came new evidence. From hotel rooms and meeting halls, forensic experts collected fingerprints and DNA samples. Forensic technologies proved merciless. Where an agent might have been certain he had left no trace at all, lab tests uncovered invisible fragments of his presence. But the most devastating blow came from the video recordings. Dubai was renowned for its surveillance system. Hundreds of cameras captured every step of the city's visitors. Investigators suddenly had hundreds of hours of footage in their hands. Frame by frame, face by face, they reconstructed the team's route, their movements through the airport, hotels, and shopping centers. The editing turned into a real film, how the team assembled from different points in the city, how the agents met, changed clothes, disappeared into the crowd, and then reappeared at al-Mabhouh's hotel room. The world, accustomed to seeing Mossad operations as legend, was now watching them through the cold eyes of a surveillance system. Every movement of the agents was exposed on screen. Mystery turned into a documentary report. And the more traces investigators found, the louder the question echoed. Was this a mistake or a calculation left behind deliberately? Thus ended the story of the Dubai operation, daring and flawless in its design, yet turning into one of the loudest international scandals. Some see it as a brilliant strike by Mossad, others as a fatal mistake. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.